Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Josh Handt, and welcome to the Human Powered Life Podcast. Yes, this is the Chiro edition. You're going to be learning tons about chiropractic, and we have an amazing guest today. This is Dr. Justin Ohm. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, but a little backstory. We went to school together. We are second generation chiros together, and we've been buddies now for, God, it's over 20 years at this point. It's kind of crazy. Well, we've probably known each other a lot longer than that. But this is a good guy, everybody. You're going to learn a ton. Let me just share a little bit about his bio, and you're going to understand the direction this conversation is going to go in. So, like we said, he's a second generation family chiropractor, father of four amazing athletes who have been adjusted since birth. And he loves watching what they can accomplish. And I can agree. I'm a chiro kid. He's a chiro kid. We're like little superheroes in our own minds, and we bounce back and perform really, really well. He's the executive director of the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, and he's excited. This is awesome. Excited and hopeful for the future of our world. Dr. Justin Ohm, brother, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. And yeah, we go way back, don't we?
Yeah.
We went to chiropractic school together, went through a lot of great times in school. I always felt like I was looking for that group of friends that were committed to their life and their mission. I was looking for that when I went to undergraduate. And as you could probably guess, I didn't find it there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a continuation of high school. You go through undergraduate, and I don't really, other than my wife, I will say that I got my wife. We met in undergraduate,
Yeah.
but I made my best friends in chiropractic school, and I think it
Hmm.
was because we were all on the same page. It was very
Yeah.
special. Yeah.
That's so cool. So everybody's heard this if they've heard other episodes of the Cairo Edition. We go through 10 questions that have I searched through AI, through Google searches, web searches. I found the 10 most commonly asked questions that I want to answer for everybody, but I want it from different voices, different experiences, different docs like yourself, because you have definitely being, with the ICPA, the Pediatric Association that we just mentioned, everybody, your twist on things is going to be similar but a little different, right? You get to see a lot as the executive director. You oversee and share and learn about research and all these amazing things. So I think everybody, you're going to love what he has to say. So let's just jump into the questions.
Okay.
So first one, super fun. It's the obvious for a chiropractor is what is chiropractic care?
I think chiropractic is all about optimizing potential. Um, we are all living in this world and we're bombarded by stress, physical, emotional, chemical stress, kind of coming into all of us, and we have to adapt to that. Whether you want to or not, you will adapt to your environmental stressors, internal and external. So that's kind of happening regardless. It's happening regardless whether you take care of yourself or if you don't take care of yourself. It's happening whether you go to a chiropractor, you don't go to a chiropractor. The difference is when you talk about the system of our body that allows for adaptation, that is the nervous system. That is the
Mhm.
nervous system. That's what we're perceiving our world through, right? And that's what's kind of orchestrating all the changes that need to happen in response to our environment. So if we're taking care of our nervous system, right? If we're upgrading the functional potential of our nervous system, we are more adaptable going forward. And if we're not doing that, we're less adaptable. And that can mean symptoms, et cetera. But symptoms aren't necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like your body waving a flag and saying, hey, pay attention over here. It's your body conducting something. It's your body adapting, right? So if we want to up level, I think chiropractic's part of that conversation. And I think this is like, the whole, and you're in this movement more than I am, but the whole biohacking, the whole kind of reaching peak potential. Chiropractic and chiropractors have been in that arena since the very beginning. it's
Yeah.
it's fun to see the world kind of coming around to it now.
Mhm. Very, very, very true. And I will say this on conversations I've had with docs on other podcasts, in person at seminars, is I always say chiropractic is the best biohack in the world.
Yeah,
Right. Well, you're going to learn
it's
more
kind it's
about
kind
that.
of the foundational biohack. You can do all the other biohacks, like make sure you do chiropractic first though, and then
Yeah,
all the other ones become more effective.
exactly. All right. So now we're just going to pivot since we have the groundwork laid down. So what is a chiropractic adjustment?
So the adjustment is it's typically a hands-on approach, although some chiropractors use instruments, but it's the process of finding the areas of the spine where that stress or that kind of restriction has taken place. And that can be a physical alignment restriction. That can be tension in the muscles surrounding that joint. But the chiropractor is kind of looking, it's kind of like a detective looking for the clues that stress is being held in this region. And if it's being held in that region, it's putting extra stress on the nervous system. That's just one more obstacle that the nervous system has to kind of work around in its objective to try to control and coordinate the body. So the adjustment is it's I sometimes explain it as it's kind of cheating, because if we move our body, theoretically, if we take care of ourselves, well enough, physically, emotionally, chemically, do we need a chiropractor? You know what I mean? We might
Mhm.
be able to kind of be in a position where we avoid needing that adjustment, at least as frequently. But when you have an area that's been overwhelmed with a stress and it's holding that tension, and it's putting an extra demand on the nervous system
Mhm.
as a result of that, to have someone else scan your spine, even if it's just with their hands, but feel your spine, find those areas, and then deliver the adjustment to try to take that tension off of the spine, it's kind of cheating. It's hacking the system in that sense.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing that I like to leave people with this, especially patients, I'm not here to try to sell you on the adjustment. The best way to kind of, determine if you like the adjustment is to experience the adjustment. And I'll tell you right now, people don't come back to my practice or to your practice or to any practice because the adjustment sucks. They come back because the adjustment is, oh my gosh, I can feel the difference and a mental clarity,
Mhm.
and I'm able to think better, my digestion. They experience that upgrade in function, right? And
Mhm.
so it's just about letting people, feel that and then decide for themselves whether they want that advantage.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And to your point with, is it cheating? I want to say no, it's not cheating. It's that connection. And yes, to your point, if you're taking care of yourself, you're going upstream of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool, which may mean, like you said, less frequent care. And in our practice, and maybe yours, we call it lifestyle care or wellness care. You're I hate the word maintenance. Maintenance is a really bad word.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
maintain our cars, but you're constantly, because we're always bombarded with stressors, right? We live in homes or apartments that are surrounded by chemical laden, I'm sitting on a chair, the cushion, God knows what's in it. I'm
Yeah, the
breathing
flame
that in,
retardants.
or
Yeah.
laminated wood or whatever it is. So we have these different environmental stressors all the time, let alone finances and this and that. So yes, adjustments I think are not recommended. They're necessary, but you may need less when you're better for yourself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Right?
Yeah, and everyone's always kind of catching up. I just, heard on the news like a week or two ago, and they were saying like, well, it turns out cooking with plastic, utensils and spoons, and that these plastics aren't good for us. It's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been obviously we're on this page. We've been on this page, like, yeah, microplastics and it's leaching into our foods. And I don't know, like when I brew coffee, I'm a coffee snob. I just can't use a coffee pot. It's going through plastic, and oh no, it's fine. It's BPA, whatever, free. But no, it's not. I'm sorry. I don't trust the plant. And they're finally, catching up to that. So it's fun to see.
Yeah. So everybody, if you're getting the gist of what Justin is saying is, as chiropractors, we've been paying attention to these external stressors that impact our insides forever because we realize what it does, and we see the ramifications in our practices. So we're always like fidgeting around going, oh, how do we go upstream ourselves? Because we got to be the best for our people, but really for ourselves, our families, and so on and so forth. So we want the best for all of you, all of the listeners, all of the people getting adjusted by their chiropractors. It's essential to be well. And listen, you play in your own game. Chiropractors will never force you to do anything. It's always a choice. So that's also really, really powerful. So let's jump into the next condition. Next condition. That's a part of the question. Next question here. What conditions do chiropractors care for? I know it's a loaded question there for you, but
A little bit loaded. I think a lot of people, might think, oh, well, I mean, well, let me spin it with my angle first because I take care of a lot of pregnant moms and babies. So maybe the potential patient that would come into my office say, oh, chiropractic treats this breech presentation that I have in pregnancy, or if it's a newborn, chiropractic treats this, this latching dysfunction or this inability to breastfeed, right? And tongue tie and all this kind of stuff. Or the kid's a little bit older. Oh, chiropractic treats these recurrent ear infections that my child keeps experiencing. And that's my population. I think, the broader chiropractic population, maybe it's in aches or pains, back pain, whatever, what have you, but the answer is the same regardless of the population, right? The answer is we're not really treating any of those conditions, right? We are trying to go upstream to those conditions. And again, having some appreciation for those conditions, to go back to the breech, scenario, if the baby's in a head up position, maybe they're in that position for a reason.
Mhm.
Maybe instead of this body, this miraculous body that we're all, kind of borrowing, for this life, maybe that body hasn't messed up and positioned that baby head up. Maybe that baby hasn't messed up and gone head up for no reason. Maybe there's a
Mhm.
chronic tension, down low in the pelvic floor. Maybe we're walking around with round ligament spasticity and our OBGYN has said, well, that's just normal during pregnancy. You have pubic symphysis pain or dysfunction and the SI or sciatic during. Maybe these things are telling us something. Oh, I shouldn't be sitting in that posture for that long. I should be, I should be getting up more frequently. I shouldn't be reclining at the end of the day. Things that are within our control, to change. So the chiropractor is saying, I'm not really here to take care of the pregnancy related sciatic pain or the breech presentation. I'm here to take care of your nervous system. And if I take care of your nervous system and I find the areas where there's pressure on your nervous system as a result of the stressors in our environment, and I remove those pressures, boom, we can start functioning at a higher
Mhm.
level. And that's true of a child who's been struggling with ear infections just as much as it's true, with a guy who's coming in with low back pain or someone with chronic headaches or a mom with a breech presentation. Let's look at the body not as a wrongness, but rather as a rightness, and even apply that thinking to symptoms, right? And say, oh, these
Yeah.
symptoms are telling us something. Okay, now we can change the way we're living. We can add this, we can take away that. We can always do better. We never arrive at wellness. It's just your orientation. Are you heading in that direction? Or are you heading away from it? Or are you standing still? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so frustrated. This aspect of my health is not improving. Are you actively doing things to improve it? Are you taking things away that might be insults, Or are you adding things that might be supportive? And so chiropractic becomes this foundational thing that we can add that can be supportive, not of this condition or that condition, of the system of our body in general.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm reading for the second time. I listened to the audiobook, and I'm reading this book for the second time called Atomic Habits, which you may or may not have read by James Clear. And, in the book, he talks about identifying with a thing. Like we try to identify, like, I'm a chiropractor. No, we identify as people that are practicing what we do. It's the habit of being the chiropractor. So the habit of wellness or health it's not a destination, like you said.
Yeah.
They're proactive. You have to identify with doing the good things on a regular basis, brushing your teeth, drinking clean water, eating good food, getting good sleep, getting adjusted, taking care of your nervous system. The dentists have done it right. They train society to take care of their teeth,
Hmm.
which rightfully so we should. I want to keep my teeth as long as I can.
Yeah.
As chiropractors, I think that's become our biggest challenge is the teaching aspect. Imagine chiropractic being in every school. So every kid knew to have good posture. Every kid knew that, hey, I need to take care of myself because I'm going to just be healthy and strong, whatever you're in third grade or fifth grade, it doesn't make a difference. But if you have that mindset growing up that, hey, chiropractic is a part of life
Yeah.
that we're going to do for the rest of my life, how much healthier are we going to be as a society? We'll use
Yeah.
emergency medicine as emergency medicine, not as health. this far from
Yeah.
that.
Dentists kind of have it easy though, because, we all look, we can see our teeth. You look
Yeah.
in the mirror, you smile, you're like, oh, okay, I got to take care of these guys.
Hmm.
We don't see our spines. So
Hmm.
it's more of an abstract, in that sense. I mean, people end up feeling their spines, and then that really motivates them to take action. As you know, that's kind of the final straw, the motivator for a lot of people. But when is the last time? And I'll ask people this too. When's the last time you brushed your spine? You brush your teeth twice a day, you floss, hopefully, on the regular, not just leading up to that next dentist appointment
The day before. Oh
the day
no.
before. I gotta floss. But what are we doing for our spines?
Hmm.
And then if you're coming in, and then you still, despite brushing twice a day, flossing as often as you can remember, you still go in on some form of, and I love going to the dentist. I just love the feeling of it. But, for a cleaning, you go in for a cleaning because they get the stuff that you miss.
Hmm.
And so the chiropractor gets the stuff that your yoga misses, that your good, healthy, postural practices miss, that, eating right and avoiding the inflammatory components of our diet miss. And hello, like it matters. We want to, yeah, your teeth are important, but the structure that surrounds and protects our central nervous system is very important. And I think people finally get an inkling to that when they experience dysfunction or pain.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, as someone who kind of, runs a kind of a wellness-based practice where it's families coming in, getting adjusted, the whole family, the kids are getting adjusted just like mom and dad, and they have another, a newborn. Oh, they jump into the family as well and they're getting adjusted. It's a throughout life kind of thing, because let's take care of these spines right from the very beginning. Oh my God, why would a newborn need an adjustment? Why would they need to see a chiropractor? It's like, well, to be very honest, they don't need it, right? You can get away with not doing it. Most of the population gets away with not doing it until you don't get away with it, until something's not working or it's hurting so bad that you're motivated, right?
Mm.
But boy, isn't that special to give that baby an advantage, and say, here you go. Here's a high functioning nervous system throughout your whole development. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
Very, very cool. Love it. So here's talk about adjusting babies and adjusting pregnant mothers and or moms to be. What this is the next question. What makes chiropractic inherently safe?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's always been it's like people think of it as like, oh my gosh, that sounds risky. It's like, no, no, it's the most minimally invasive approach you can do to take care of your spine and nervous system. You think about kind of letting things go, like, oh, I'll just do nothing. That seems safer. It's like, unless that leads to more invasive interventions later on, as a result of not taking care of things. So I'll give you the example that I give a lot of people that come in when they're like, wait a minute, why does a kid need to get adjusted at all? Is it safe to do it? If you get a plant and you put it near your window, wherever you put it in the room, it's going to eventually start growing towards the window because that's where the light source is. And that actually is a pretty cool thing. Plants have
Yeah.
this intelligence to, like, if you notice, they angle their leaves towards the light source. There's an intelligence in plants, just like there's an intelligence in us. But they start growing towards the light source. And you could say to yourself, gosh, that plant has torticollis. That plant is like clearly going crooked. That's a scoliosis plant right there. No, that's an intelligent plant that's growing intelligently towards the light. Now, I can do nothing and let that happen. And then when that plant gets too big for the pot, or I want to bring it outside and plant it in the garden, is that plant off to one side more or less adaptable to the variety of the outside environment? Right? It's less adaptable. Versus if I say, okay, I'm an intelligent human being here. I know that plant's going to grow off to the path of least resistance towards the light source, and I'm going to periodically interject and very gently adjust the position of that plant. Just like I would say is worthwhile to do with babies and kids as they grow. Very gently interject and adjust the position of that spine to take the pressure off, to take that kind of unilateral, one-dimensional factor out of the equation. And now that plant grows nice and symmetrical and bushy, and we can bring it outside and it can withstand, winds. It's not leaning over to one side. It's more adaptable now to the variety. We're not a plant. Our kids are not going to be sitting in the same room for their whole life, right? They're going to go out and they're going to be exposed to the challenges of the soccer field or, the pole vaulting pit, as my oldest daughter does.
Or even a jungle gym, right? Like something as silly as that. But
Or even the jungle gym and
yeah.
other kids, and they're off. We want them to be adaptable. We want them to be dynamic and as strong as possible, and not just physically, but like neurologically.
Mhm.
Like,
Are you tired of feeling stuck? Low energy, stubborn weight, and endless fatigue? Teammate Wellness is here to help. Our bioactive precision peptides are backed by cutting edge science to support your metabolism, boost energy, and improve muscle recovery. These peptides communicate with your body's innate wisdom to unlock better health and vitality. Stop settling and start thriving today. Visit lifestylelocker.com/peptides to learn more and take the first step towards your transformation. Once again, that's lifestylelocker.com/peptides. Now back to the show.
how well neurologically and immunologically are you able to adapt to this exposure or that bug or whatever else comes into the preschool? Do you know what I mean? Are you
Yeah.
adaptable or are you not adaptable? And it all starts with that nervous system. And did we lay this appropriate foundation, for a well-functioning nervous system? So that's kind of how I look at it. It's incredibly safe. It's incredibly safe. And you can actually, the ICPA has done a lot of research on safety and efficacy because that's what gets called into like a lot of the
Yeah.
time is like, well, this hasn't been proven safe. It's like, and actually Australia, I was just kind of doing some reading on Australia. Australia is like really pushing this idea of limiting access for kids. So like if you're a parent in Australia, you can't bring your child to the chiropractor if they're under 2. You're not allowed to. The kind of the medical health ministers have kind of made that call and they've taken it away. And there's simply no basis in the claim that it's unsafe. But you can say all day long that it hasn't been proven safe. Well, so the ministers they conducted their own, survey, and it was like 26,000, it was 22,000, parents that they surveyed in Australia talking about, are you satisfied? Have you seen any safety concerns with your chiropractic care? And I think something like 70% of those 21,000 parents, it was actually kids under the age of 2. So the exact demographic that they're trying to restrict care for. And it came back like 98, 99% highly satisfied with the chiropractic care that they've received. No, not a single incidence of a negative response to the care itself. There were like a couple, like 0.3% of the respondents said something like, "Oh, I didn't like how the billing was handled," or something something to the administrative side of the business. But that's amazing in their own study. So what did they do with those findings? Did they let that then influence their decision and say, "Oh, you know what? Actually, parents in Australia are highly satisfied. They really love chiropractic care, and they actually come back overwhelmingly and almost unanimously and say, this has helped my child." Do they open it back up? Do they allow, kids under the age of 2 to see chiropractors? No, they suppressed those findings. They just buried the study. You can find it, you can find the study online if you search it. But
Yeah. And
um,
that's why we need to be making our own health choices for ourselves and our families, not anybody else.
we need to maintain the autonomy. Yes,
Yeah, for
100%.
sure. For sure. Okay. So here's another good one I think you'll enjoy. How does chiropractic care differ from other medical treatments? As I know I've said this on other shows. I hate the word treatment, but that's the question that was found.
I think we primarily differ in our philosophy. And I will say this, not always. We don't always differ. But I think by and large, chiropractors have a different philosophy about the body and about health. And we do kind of have an appreciation for the intelligence that the body kind of is hardwired with. And I think we respect that a little bit more than other practitioners. And you can kind of break it down, Many medical professions are very mechanistic, and they're pathogenic too in mindset. So a lot of people know the difference between mechanistic and vitalistic, and I would say chiropractors tend to be more vitalistic, whereas, and again, not all chiropractors. You can have a mechanistic chiropractor for sure, but I think mechanistic is like breaking things down, like looking at the body like a machine. You know what I mean? And like, oh, this part's broken. Let's do a
Like a
surgery.
mechanic,
Yeah, like a
right?
mechanic, exactly.
Think of it.
And
Yeah.
then vitalistic is saying like, no, 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 there's something special about this body. This life itself. It's more than the sum of the parts. We're not just a machine. There's an intelligence running this, and it's highly complex. So I think we have an ability to kind of appreciate that side of the equation. But then also almost all of modern medicine. And I won't even say not just medicine, even alternative healthcare. Almost all of it is pathogenic in nature. And what that means is that you're focused on the disease or condition, right? You're focused on, well, this is the problem, and these are the proven ways to improve that problem. Whether that's medical, with pharmacology, or whether that's seeing the acupuncture who's treating those things naturally, or the homeopath or the nutritionist, like, what's the problem? What can we do to fix it? Okay, cool. But then there's this whole other side. It's like the other side of the coin. Instead
Hmm.
of a pathogenic viewpoint, you can have a salutogenic viewpoint. And a lot of people have not heard that term, but maybe you've heard, when you're cheersing at your, Italian in-laws fishes, salut, so it's to life. And so it's this idea, instead of focusing on the disease or the condition, what if we focused over here on the things that add life instead of preventing the condition? Even preventative care is still pathogenic in a sense because you're focused on what you want to, or you're trying to
Hmm.
prevent. But if we focus over here on what can I do that adds more life and vitality to my system. You know what I mean? And this is the biohacking thing. They haven't put these terms together yet, but they're looking at doing things proactively that add value to their life.
Hmm.
This is a salutogenic mindset. And again, not all chiropractors are here. Some are fixing bad backs, and that's okay. That's good. I said I prefer you to do that than go in for a surgery that you might not need. Like try the less invasive stuff first, 100%. But I think it's really special when we're over here and we're aimed in that direction. And we're
Hmm.
we're looking at how do we improve people's lives, not just how do I, fix something that might not be going right.
Oh, that's powerful. I like that's a really neat way to look at it. And I when you say salute, I think salutogenic, like solution based, like
Yeah.
proactive. That's I know that's maybe not where the word comes from, but that's just how it resonates with me.
Yeah.
So, being that you are a pediatric expert, if I'm allowed to say those words as you are,
So,
what
yeah.
can but what you're going to do is from your perspective and how you practice. What can I expect during a chiropractic visit? Now, let's not do necessarily your first visit. Maybe what does it look like in an office setting when a family's coming in or something like that?
So, I mean, I really prioritize listening and connecting in those first visits. I feel like what people aren't getting at a lot of other places, especially in the kind of allopathic medical system, is someone who's really on their side. Someone who's actually invested, and you can feel that. You kind of feel like a number. You're being ushered in and out. You don't know how much this person cares about you. And this is especially true in the prenatal. It's just so rushed, and you're kind of told what to do. You're not asked what you want to do. You're not given choices the way I think you should be as a woman in that situation. And same thing with our kids. You're not really given choices about, how do you want to approach raising this healthy child? No, it's like one size fits all. This is what we do. Otherwise, I will excuse you from care. So offering a real contrast to that experience and genuinely getting to know someone. Because I feel like if we can connect, one on one, that their ability to have, successful care going forward is increased tremendously. On follow-up visits, on a regular kind of, family adjustment visit, it usually goes something like this, like, all right, the Smiths are here. Come on back. And the kids are like, no, me first, me first. And they're fighting to get on the table first. And it's like, and then we kind of, break up that little scuffle between the sisters or the brothers or whatever. And okay, let's do this one. This one goes first this time. We'll switch it up next time. And so the point is that kids are like really looking forward to get adjusted. And I do try to make the adjustment fun. I'm not like, okay, stay still, don't move, don't ask questions. I'm working here. I'm like, okay, let's see what, power switches we need to turn on. Let's turn on your power. And I'm kind of always referencing back to how smart their body is, how brilliant they're doing. And, the kids aren't thinking about this, but I think it just lays this kind of like really cool premise that they can trust their body, instead of, I think the messaging that we get, in some other aspects of healthcare don't really give that message very often. So I'm always saying like, did you get bigger? And the kids are like always very proud to say,
Yeah.
yes, I did get big. Yes, I did. I'm like, how did you do that? How did you grow? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, come on, what makes you grow? What makes you grow strong? And they'll say things like, I ate my vegetables, or I got good sleep, or I get my power turned on at the chiropractor. You know what I mean? But it's giving them the idea that they have a say in this thing called health. If they ever point out something like, "Oh, I have a boo-boo, I have a cut," or if they're an older child and they're recovering from an injury, if they're an athlete, I always like to kind of reiterate how well they're healing, because that's like such a important premise that your body is always striving towards optimal function. It wants to get back there, it wants to heal effectively, and sometimes the things that we're doing that we're not even thinking about are preventing us from getting there. But that's the idea, is like reminding them, oh yeah, you're always healing, your body does so good at that. Instead of, like, you could imagine being fairly hopeless at a certain point. You're growing up, you have allergies or eczema, or you have, these different things that you're kind of, struggling with, food sensitivities, digestive stuff, whatever it is. And then, stuff starts hurting when you're older, or you can't participate in this activity or that sport, and you're starting to think of yourself as broken. And in fact, anytime you go in to get a diagnosis, they're like, well, this is what's wrong. Instead of like, nobody's saying what's right.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And kids are impressionable. Like, I remember being a kid, like it's amazing how careless providers can be with what they say. And this is not just in front of kids, but in front of adults, especially in front of pregnant moms, where they have this kind of, you know, this runway in front of them of approaching a birth, and like, and when they're constantly told of what could go wrong in the birth, I think it almost does more harm than good, because it's kind of like setting the stage for an expectation of something going wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so many times, like, oh yeah, I've they said my low back's never going to be right, or I'm always going to have problems with my gait because this leg's longer than this leg. And as chiropractors, we check that sometimes, leg length, and it tells us
Mhm.
what's happening in the pelvis. And I'm like, no, 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 that's an indicator for that day. Like, you're not that's not like a diagnosis that you're shackled with for the rest of, you're adapting, you're constantly evolving, your body's always healing, you're always striving towards this, perfection. And that just cued us to help us know what to adjust and in what direction that day. But that previous provider or chiropractor, whoever, didn't frame it that way. They framed it as something wrong that justifies their own care. You know what I mean? So it's a hard thing,
Mhm.
and you could be on this slippery slope. Like, I'm just so careful. I'm so careful with um, saying something's wrong. And people will actually ask you, like, what's wrong? Can you tell, what position the baby is in? And I'm like, that's not really in my scope, but I can tell you one thing. Your nervous system is firing so perfectly after this adjustment, or you're doing great. Even just that, just letting them know like how well they're doing after this visit. We don't get told that enough. We don't get credit, and our bodies are doing great. Even when we're struggling with certain symptoms, like, it's doing a whole heck of a lot. And it's really, I think it's beneficial to be reminded of that. So,
Yeah, that's a great, awesome answer. Oftentimes we're talking about the things we do, the words we say are so powerful. And we see waves of pregnant moms in our practice. Like we'll get a handful, then we don't. Not like your practice, which is probably 99.5%, families like that. But it's really interesting. I almost feel like they're told it's a 9-month disease where the tumor
yeah,
gets taken out, and there's so much fear.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is amazing. You have two cells that turn into trillions of cells. How cool is that? You don't even have to think about it.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like,
It
oh
really is.
yeah, I
It's
never thought
amazing.
of it that way. Like you have a living, breathing human being after two cells become one, and then all this really cool stuff happens. And it's, just that I guess what we call like what does Tony Robbins call like a state shift?
Yeah,
Right? Like we're changing our state, and that's so powerful because the immune system, the nervous system, primarily responds to good input or bad input. Like you said in the beginning, physical, chemical, emotional changes.
yeah.
So that's real powerful. I love that answer. Absolutely
Yeah,
love
and
it.
then as a chiropractor, are you doing that extra? And that it is extra because I think it's easier to just phone it in and be like, okay, I'm just going to adjust people, and not create that connection or find those opportunities to kind of, really empower them or remind them, of
Yeah.
how special their body is and how perfect it's functioning, even, despite if they're feeling symptoms.
Hmm.
And, that's a shame. It's a missed opportunity. you
Yeah.
know so you want to be proficient with your technique. You want to be like a good chiropractor, a good that you're able to kind of do the adjustment well and take care of people well, but then are you going above and beyond that too and connecting? Are you as a chiropractor, is your chiropractor that you're potentially seeing, person who's watching this podcast, are they excited to see you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are they thrilled to be in practice still? Are they smiling when you walk into the room? You know, those I think are the intangibles. And it's like we've got such limited time. It's like you need to surround yourself with people who are excited to be here, who are thrilled to be here, and that can really be uplifting. And that's what I try to do personally as well. I know you do as well. It's like the people that we surround ourselves with matter.
Hmm.
So
100%. 100%. So this is great. We have a good flow going here. So how many sessions will I need? Next question. I know. Oh, tough one there.
Yeah,
We're kind of hitting on
I
some
will
of
get.
these in multi questions,
Yeah,
but
no, that's a really good question because I will get that question like, um, how many adjustments does my child need until their ear infections are fixed? And when I hear that question, I know I haven't explained what chiropractic is. To go back to a previous question that you asked, how long do I have to get adjusted before this is fixed? It's like, do you want the advantage of a fully functioning nervous system, or do you want, you don't need to you don't need to, like, as many sessions as you want or zero sessions. Like my whole thing is like trying to give them the reins of their healthcare decision making. They've never, had that before. They want to be told how many times. I will come around and I'll say, in my experience, people really start hitting their stride, noticing the benefits of chiropractic care after however much time, you know. But it's with that regular care. The ICPA did a study where they were looking at sense of coherence, which is kind of it's another, it's correlated very highly with quality of life. Okay. And you could imagine a lot of factors go into quality of life. But one of the things, that we kind of look at with salutogenic research is this sense of coherence. And it's like, okay, we know quality of life goes up when you get under chiropractic care. Okay, and things start feeling better in your body. That adds to quality of life. But this salutogenic idea of sense of coherence, like how coherent, how at home do you feel in your body and in your environment? How in control of your life and your body and your environment do you feel? And we've all had those times in our life where we feel somewhat out of control and like things are, flying out of control and they're not within your control. But when we're really kind of in the flow, right? When you're in kind of like a flow state and you're just like, yeah, I'm jamming. I'm in my track. That's a high level of sense of coherence, right? So that's another way
Hmm.
to kind of think of it. How many adjustment visits does it require to achieve statistically significant increases in sense of coherence? They talk about 18 visits. So it doesn't happen immediately. Symptom improvement happens immediately. You see a chiropractor for this, that, or the next thing, and your symptoms get better pretty much right off the bat for a lot of things. Okay. You start to feel better pretty quickly. But if you stick with it and you go 18 visits in, you start to experience something else. You start to experience this improvement in sense of coherence. And that's kind of a cool thing. Now when you're applying that to a family, the whole family's experiencing increased sense of coherence. They're more coherent as a family together.
That's cool.
You've changed the trajectory of that family when you've achieved that. Okay. So it's hard for me because I want families to get to that point, but I don't want them to feel like I'm prescribing a certain treatment plan for them to get to that point. And so I kind of let them know, look, things can start feeling better right off the bat, but something special happens when you've been under care for a while and you're kind of you're optimizing wellness. And when it's like it's one thing, okay, you bring in a child who's dealing with a symptom and I'm just taking care of that child while my mom might be sitting there anxious and stressed out in her own right because she's dealing with other kids, whatever the rest of the stress of the family. And it's quite a different thing when you're taking care of the whole family and everyone's nervous system is being upregulated on whatever form of a kind of a regular
Mm.
basis, and then they start achieving that sense of coherence and they actually start trusting their body as the whole family, and the kids are trusting their body and the kids are actually mentioning it to mom, like, when are we seeing Dr. Justin again? They're
So true, right?
feeling, because they're so intuitive, they're feeling when their sense of coherence is dropping.
Yeah.
Way before a symptom. Why? What's wrong? Is something bothering you? No. It's, I'd like to go get my power turned on again. It's like, you know what I mean? Like they know when they need it before the symptoms have even
Yeah.
kind of, said it. So it's a
Yeah.
cool thing.
Yeah, it's so true. That's so, so true. So now we're there. This is going to be an easy, probably very simple one for you. Are chiropractic adjustments painful?
If they were painful, nobody would come back. Just wouldn't come back.
Mic drop.
Like
Uh,
nobody's forced to go to the chiropractor. You're not forced to see a dentist either. And I guess the dentist could be painful, but you probably try to avoid the dentist if you've had bad experiences at the dentist. And I guess if you see a chiropractor who isn't a great chiropractor, or if it's for a child or during pregnancy, if they're not well trained in, pediatrics and pregnancy, well, you might get turned off by it. And certainly it depends on the person too. Like, and I'll sense this sometime when someone comes in and I'm like, I'm just not jiving with them. I'm not connecting with them energetically. I might say, you might do well at this other practice, because people connect. We're not going to get along with everyone, and we get along with certain people better than other
mhm.
people. And like, so find the practitioner, find the chiropractor, you know, that you really connect with. And I think and that's why I spend so much time on that first visit, kind of like listening and connecting, because like it all builds off of that. If you can't have that common connection, um, maybe it won't be as good of an experience. So,
Yeah.
but no, it doesn't hurt. It feels good, and that's
Yeah.
why people typically come back. If it does
True.
hurt, try another, probably go to a different chiropractor,
Yeah.
or they're doing something that your body wasn't quite ready for, and talk to them about that. But it's very rare,
Yeah.
actually.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think you've hit on the 10th question. I think we've answered a few times. The ninth question is, can chiropractic care prevent future health issues?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one. You can't really go back in time and test it the other way. You know, I I firmly believe that getting adjusted is beneficial long term. That doesn't mean that I'm motivated to get adjusted or to take care of patients in order to prevent some future condition. That's just not my motivation for it. You know,
Yep, for sure.
I don't know. I'm motivated to do it to have that highly functioning nervous system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then whatever is down the road, coming our way, not coming our way, I know I'll be in a better place to be able to deal with that or to be able to kind of adapt through that if I have a nervous system that's functioning at its peak potential. Does that make
True.
sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And here's the to your point, how do we know?
Yeah, you don't
Like
know.
you can't, we don't have that time machine to go back to test it. But to your point, when you have a child that may come and see you, you mentioned ear infections, and the child starts to heal and get better. That's a cool experience to see for the parent to see. I love seeing those miracles in the practice. I mean, that's we'll call it normal, but it's amazing. It just shows the power of that innate wisdom in the body. But that kid that may have started care at day one that doesn't have the ear infections, that
Yeah.
doesn't have these other health issues, that's also a miracle, right? Like we don't, they may have been going down the same road as that other child. There's no way
Yeah.
to know.
I love that you brought that up because I feel like that's my kids. You know what I mean? Like that's a
Hmm.
lot of kids in my practice too, but my own children, like, well, you hear about a lot of like, oh, miracle story. Like you're saying, someone comes in and has this like, tremendous turnaround in their health and everything. And like, that's awesome. But if you're taking care of someone proactively right from the beginning, you're just optimizing the nervous system right from the beginning. Like, what do you get? You don't get the look at this wonderful case where something turned around. You just get a highly functional kid.
Hmm.
And like I think I'm not trying to take the success, of my kids athletically, for having adjusted them their whole life. But I'll take a little bit of it. I'll take a little bit. Like they've
True.
been adjusted since birth, and it's not like I'm forcing them to get adjusted.
Hmm.
They're asking to get adjusted on a regular basis. And they're like, "Oh, can you adjust me? I just got back from my oldest is going to college next year, and she's getting offers from D1 schools for pole vaulting. So that's cool.
Yeah, way cool.
And it's a very niche sport, really requires a lot of body mechanics, to kind of be able to do that. And I happened to be at a meet last year, high school meet of hers, and she was in warm-ups, running through with the pole, and this almost never happens, especially for women, because they generally don't bend the pole enough. But she's like pretty jacked, and she snapped a pole in
Oh,
warm-ups.
I think we spoke about this actually when it happened. Yeah, I
And
remember
it
this.
was like, you can imagine every muscle of your body inverting you. You're upside down, you're contracted, you're trying to orchestrate this complex movement with
Yeah.
speed, and the pole that you're anchored on breaks free. So she,
Mm.
falls awkwardly into the pit. But more importantly, that sudden break, you ever like catch yourself from a fall and the catch injures you? It was
Yeah.
like that. Like everything seized up. And she's on the mat. She's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I'm like, okay, okay. And I'm not at every meet because my brother's her coach. So he's at every meet. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I try to get to the meets that I can. I happen to be there. So let's get off the mat. We'll come down over here. And I'm like, do you want me to adjust you? Because she's like rigid throughout her entire spine. She's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And she's crying at this point. And this is a very stoic, tough girl. She doesn't cry. And she's like, I think I do. I'm like, okay, let me adjust you. And I scan her spine and I adjust her right there on the track off to the side. And things relax. And she starts breathing again. And it's like, was that a miracle? I mean, she
Yeah.
went on to set the meet record that day, which even just psychologically, saying like, okay, I just trusted this last pole and then it broke and I'm going to be able to get back up and go. Like, I'm
Mm.
not sure which one was more impressive, the physical adaptability or the mental adaptability in that
Yeah,
circumstance.
for
But
sure.
I know getting adjusted her whole life made her more adaptable in that moment.
Wow.
And so that's just yeah, we don't hear about those stories, you know. And
Yeah.
my other kids, they're amazing athletes in their own right. And, we could go down the list, but it's like, yeah, I love watching them. I see it as a chiropractic success story, even though there is nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not fixing them. I'm not adjusting them to prevent something from happening. I'm just adjusting them to optimize, and I do that on a regular basis.
That's so true. And then you essentially answered this last question through all of your answers. Is chiropractic care suitable for children and pregnant women? Yes, is the short answer, right? But
It
if
is.
you want to add anything,
Well, I guess what I would touch on with that is it is. And the thing to remember here is chiropractors graduate chiropractic school and they've learned how to adjust, depending on the school, but they've learned how to adjust and they've learned how to adjust all populations. And and then there's like those chiropractors that graduate chiropractic school and they say, "Wait a minute, I'm really into taking care of pregnant moms, or I'm really into taking care of kids." And we learned a little bit about this, but we didn't like go down the rabbit hole. We didn't like
hmm
immerse ourselves with becoming, you said pediatric expert. I would just say, you know, striving to be, competent and, the best that you can be, for those families that come in.
hmm
And this is where the ICPA comes in. The ICPA is a postgraduate education program for chiropractors. And chiropractors can go, and they can get certified in just the Webster technique, which is for pregnancy. It's a pregnancy
Yep.
technique for adjusting. Or they can go, through the full perinatal program and really be able to take care of a mom prenatal and postnatal. Because, like there's a lot of postnatal,
hmm
postpartum recovery that's required there. Or have they gone through the full program and become pediatric certified? So you can find these chiropractors that are like really motivated to be focused on this kind of care on the ICPA's website. And I think that's a great starting point, especially for any of the families that are listening. Okay, I think I might consider bringing my kids to a chiropractor. Where do I start, with finding that? We have 9,000 members across the country and the world. And we have a referral directory. So you can go to the ICPA's website and just type in your zip code and it'll bring up all the ICPA chiropractors in your geographic area. And it'll
hmm
show, you know, what level of
Yeah,
certification
Webster certified or the
exactly,
tiers.
the
You
different
know,
tiers.
yeah, I'm Webster certified, which I think is one of the most phenomenal techniques. I even use most most pieces of that, even with people that are not pregnant, and it's the
Same.
results
Yeah, I do
are
too.
amazing, amazing. So, um, I guess this last question for you, which is not a question here, is where's the best places for people to find you? I know you mentioned the website. You want to just say it out loud. What's the
Yeah.
website?
Okay. Yeah. The website is ICPA, the number four, KIDS, ICPA for kids.com. And you can click on the, find a chiropractor link right there on the homepage. And I'm not huge into social media. I just don't love it. I
That's
think,
right. That website is for
the,
everybody. You can search for docs, but the research, all of the things are there.
yeah.
Pathways Magazine, which we have in our
Well,
practice.
right. And you can see the Pathways podcast logo in the back, but Pathways magazine, that's really kind of like that's the educational piece that the
Yeah,
ICPA puts out for the public. And it's not chiropractic
phenomenal.
specific, it's wellness and everything else.
hmm
So pathways to familywellness.org.
Yeah. I recommend that for everybody. That's a great resource, really great resource because we get bombarded with so much of one side that this opens another door to go, oh, there are options because most people do not know there
Yeah.
are options.
And it's just a counter, voice to the fear that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
Because there's so
for
much fear
sure.
surrounding so many aspects. So to be empowered and have kind of an encouraging, set of articles. All of Pathways is free online. Every past article is free online. You can subscribe to, help support that mission of getting that kind of messaging out there. But it's a treasure trove of past article, resources for people, for families, for moms, etc.
Yeah, and if you're a fan, if you have a family and you start seeing a chiropractor, the magazine is beautiful. Like the hold in your
Yes.
hands is beautiful. I'm just kind of doing a little commercial here for him, but to have as a coffee table book, because if you have friends coming over that have families and they want to know why your family's doing so well, like how are they so happy and healthy?
Yeah.
Oh, check this out, you know, and
Yeah,
it's a great introduction.
it's tough to keep a print magazine
I know,
economically viable,
I know.
in today's world. But we do it because it is such a great conversation starter to have, in the practice. And, midwives order and they hand it out to their patients. And it's just, like I said, you're not going to get this counter narrative in mainstream news outlets. So this is it's just such a great curated list of content that kind of is brought together with a theme for the magazine of pregnancy, family wellness, alternative, views on health and school and
Hmm.
raising kids and everything. So, yeah, excellent resource.
Awesome. So everybody, Dr. Justin Ohm, appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. You too.
Did you know that over 60% of Americans suffer from chronic health challenges like fatigue, weight gain, and metabolic issues? At Team Make Wellness, we understand that staying healthy feels harder than ever, but there's a better way. Our bioactive precision peptides are designed to enhance energy, reduce stress, and support fat loss, helping you feel better from the inside out. Imagine feeling energized, focused, and in control of your health. With Team Make Wellness, it's possible. Whether you're recovering from workouts, managing weight, or just want to feel better every day, our peptides deliver science-backed results you can trust. Take the first step to transforming your health today. Visit lifestylelocker.com/peptides to download your free guide and discover how peptides can unlock your best self. Once again, that's lifestylelocker.com/peptides.